stepping down the Champs-Elysees by Christmas. Yes, I'm sure you will. Eating bratwurst and slapping your lederhosen. I mean, for fuck's sake. So Europe's going tits up, and it's horrible to see that swing from socialism to radical right. I mean, these things, there's consequences, right?
There is.
And
Pendulum swing.
None of them are good. And we're in that same fucking pendulum now. We just don't know it. I mean, everyone's got it.
We don't acknowledge it.
Fuck that.
Caught the tail end of that German rant.
Oh, you did you?
Yeah.
Oh, dear. Okay.
I didn't get the front part of it, but
It was about Australia, though, right?
Yeah, bloody complex.
Australia. Oh, man.
Well, righty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Timcast. IRL Studios, another episode of the Appalachian Podcast. I'm Billy Riddle, your host. With me, as always, is my 1776.
Oh, Lord. I know the day's coming.
I know, his Independence Day is coming up.
Just ungrateful, colonial, treasonous bastards.
It's a beautiful July 3rd here on the eve of the day that our forefathers told the king to pretty much shove it. I mean, it really didn't go down like that, you know.
Well, it was well deserved, actually. In fairness, that was a battle well won, and deservedly so. So at that point, hey, I'm fully on board.
Well, some would argue that, maybe, the battle was never really won. I mean, of course, Stuart gets here, maybe the purple smoke will start coming out, but there's there's a lot of evidence out there that perhaps we still are a part of the crown. It's just not.
Well, the City of London Corporation, etc. The
DC
the
and
magic the magic mile in the city. Oh yeah, there's all sorts of little corporations that require investigation in that regard, and the formation of DC, etc., etc.
Yeah, it's been it's one of those deals like that. So it's it's July 3rd. Tomorrow we celebrate I guess our Independence Day. It's kind of, I don't know.
Tongue in cheek.
I mean, I think I saw a meme on Chip's. No, maybe I shared it. I'm going to share it here soon, but so Chip can kind of appreciate it. It's got Hank Hill from, King of the Hill. And he's saying, you know what's sad, Bobby, is celebrating Independence Day for by shooting off fireworks that you were taxed for, or something like that. Celebrating, telling taxes, it was. Oh,
absolutely. When you consider the taxes that you were under the king, the mad king, I may add, he's absolute, certifiably insane. Wear a white jacket in a padded cell, George III. I think the taxation was about 2% at that point. Oh dear, where would you rather be now?
We ain't even got to introductions yet.
Take us back.
We just literally
the ironic smile of an Englishman here. Sorry, there, Mr. Pinker. It's genuine. It's not a false accent. There you go.
Well, anyway, we don't have a special kind of guest, I guess, here. They just kind of have the usual suspects. Chip Slate, being Libertarian, as always, is back in the house again. I appreciate you being here on such short notice today. And then, of course, Stuart just walked in. He's, I guess, so
purple smoke machine.
Yeah. And, we weren't, I wasn't going to do a show. I kind of resided to not doing a show this week, and I'd planned on working today, and work called in and said, don't need you. I said, all right. So I just started sending out the back signal, and everybody just kind of gravitated. So we'll get in one. Normally we release early on Wednesday. This will just come out sometime here in the next hour or two immediately. So we're right up to the minute here, and we appreciate everybody that is tuning in.
Well, it's there's so many subjects to discuss.
Oh, good Lord.
But I mean, this last week,
a lot
and in fact, as much as an hour ago, I'm keeping it current. What's going on is insane.
The past week has been like 2 years worth of stuff.
I mean, the opportunities for comment are boundless. Boundless.
Yeah, we're doing this show here today for everybody that listens. We want to keep it consistent for everybody, and especially our subscribers out there. If you're not a subscriber, you can always become one. at patreon.com/getontap for just
$1
dime
a day.
A minimum. You can always give more. If you're one of these types out here that, drive Maseratis or brand new, F-250s and you're pulling a $20,000 trailer or whatever. I mean, I know times is tough, but, maybe $5 to $10 a month could probably be swung by some, we're not at all safe. We're just trying to,
how much are you paying for a Starbucks now?
Exactly. I mean, we should be worth more than your Starbucks.
I would like to think. Is that precocious? Maybe.
And with inflation as well. I mean, inflation's it's just an extra tax on us. So
that was a $20 word that came out very, very prematurely.
Absolutely. So if you're wondering, once again, we're doing the show just for you all. Go to patreon.com/getontap. Or if you want to give a one-time donation, we're at Venmo and Cash App at Get On Tap. I always just tell everybody to go become a subscriber because you get extra content and stuff, and we keep tabs on on our subscribers and
special event invitations.
Invite them to events and stuff, and we always have a pretty good time with it. Actually, one of our good ones today, he sent me a message. I won't say who it was, but he was going off about our rant on Ferrum College, I guess, last week, not helping him out a bit. And I see a photo of him working up there. He's like, so, oops. Yeah. I said,
I actually got a little bit of pushback there as well. And, you've got to share opinion. Okay. And there's good and there's bad. Just the message was support the Ferrum Forward folks and their project. And that was the real message behind that particular matter.
Well, I mean, look, I want Ferrum to succeed more than anybody does. I have more connection to that place than any of these people commenting on it currently do. I mean, my dad started teaching there about 7 months after I was born.
Right.
And so I lived on campus.
Supporting Mercer. We had Mercer on, and she is a delightful, very, very vivacious person. She's very positive about the future of Ferrum, and hopefully that is contagious.
I really hope it is.
And didn't they have some news on the athletic front that's local and positive?
Oh, yeah. So Eric Owens is now the head baseball coach at Ferrum College, which is a huge deal.
That's huge.
He had a phenomenal major league career. When I say phenomenal, I think he went on for maybe 7, 8, or 9 years, which if you can make it that long in the pros, I don't care if you're sitting at the end of the bench or you're out there swinging fastballs. You're making good money. You're getting to play a kid's game.
Well, it's great for recruiting. I mean,
good for recruiting.
When Abe was the coach there, he had such cachet in the region with being able to bring, great high school baseball players to Ferrum to play.
Yeah.
And then once he left, that kind of disappeared. Mm-hmm. And Ferrum's baseball program kind of, went downhill a little bit, but with having a former player who was a major leaguer back in charge, that's huge for the baseball.
That's great. That's great news for Ferrum College. Absolutely. And we applaud them for getting such a coup.
They also added women's flag football for the fall. So
oh wow!
I think that's really what's gonna turn the tide there.
Put it over the top.
Yeah. Is it lingerie women's flag football?
Billy.
I don't know if we'd want to see that.
Look, Simon, I see where your mind is going because all of a sudden your mind went to 20-year-old co-eds and lingerie. My mind went to a marketing aspect. What are you trying to do to make money or get people to your school? I was just curious about the rules.
I watched a few of those lingerie flag
I'm ducking out of this conversation.
Football games 100%. Back in the day when that league was around.
My mic is now muted.
On the Ocho on a Saturday afternoon in the spring.
Look, I would love for Ferrum to somehow maybe get back to the way that I guess maybe the college was originally set up to be, or at least, a place where, sure, you want to get people to come in from out of town to play on your sports teams, to understand the area, and maybe they're a good fit for there and they stick around forever and raise a family here, and that increases in the value of your area. Or you also have a place to where all these farmers around here, they want to send their kids to college, but to keep them around the farm as well. That way they're hitting it on two fronts. Well, now they've got a place to go to. Well, they can be local, but they can also, get that education they want. But structure the school to help those farmers out. Make it more of an ag ag-minded school, more of a engineering kind of.
I think they are I think they have a very strong ag department there.
Yeah, but I mean, just like start honing in on it. You know what I mean? Like Virginia Tech has a phenomenal ag program, and that's one of their big selling points going into these local rural high schools.
It's huge.
You know,
huge.
so you know, why not step, bigger? You know, get some barns out there, some cows.
Yeah. They had an equestrian program for the longest time, and that was a draw where you would have 10 to 15 students a year, mostly girls, that were coming to Ferrum just because they could bring their horses and they could compete in equestrian. They had the horse stables. Wow. They had the whole thing. I mean, I rode a horse drunk several times late at night, going
why wouldn't you?
Yeah, going to the horse barn and hanging out. And, they did away with that to put that biomass facility in. That was, let's be honest, a scam the whole time. And that's why it's torn down now and gone. Yeah, I mean, they used to be more focused on those sorts of activities, and then 10 years or so ago, I guess they decided that nursing would be the big push, and that's fallen flat on its face.
Well, unfortunately, with the way Carillion pretty much controls,
they dominate
and dominates the local market.
But
you're kind of reacting to the trend.
You're reacting to the trend of the thing that I said all along, and I mean, anybody with some common sense could say this. Why would you pay the amount of money you're going to have to pay to go to Ferrum to do nursing when you can go to Virginia Western and pay what?
Or you go to
an eighth the amount of money and be affiliated with Carillion instead,
or Radford Carillion, or Virginia Tech Carillion.
You're competing against a heavily weighted.
And sometimes it's good to buck the trend, because eventually it's like if everybody's doing thing, then maybe you want to look at doing different things.
Offer something different.
That's kind of what I did with the podcast. It's like, you want to start something. There is a podcast for literally everything out there.
Yeah,
everything.
Right.
I mean, there's 100 true crime. There's 100 sports. There's 100 crime. I mean, it's everywhere you turn. Mm-hmm. To pick one that's actually been able to stick around for 3 years and I think be as successful as we are, you just had to find a niche. And when you say Appalachian podcast, well, then all of a sudden, I mean, what's that really mean?
And this is, no offense to anyone, but there's too many of these people with these administrative degrees that are in these meetings that are deciding, oh, hey, this is what we should do. And instead of just having some common sense about it. And
yeah, we're an agricultural county.
Well, yeah, and it's like
that is our past, present, and future.
It's the same thing you see everywhere. It's like my parents dealt with this for years. There, the people that were the administrators, like the deans and the people in charge, they never actually were in a classroom ever. And so they're setting policy and making decisions, and they have no hands-on experience with what they're actually making decisions about. They've got these highfalutin degrees that
sounds like
trained them how to do it.
Sounds
but
exactly like that.
Yeah.
It doesn't translate over.
Well, when you mention that, for the industry I work in, I've seen it in other industries and certainly the military. But when you get these people with degrees that have really no experience in the field, it's like, okay, this is our safety team over here for trucking company A. Okay, well, have you ever driven a truck before? Well, no. I went to college. It's like, these people, they're doing more than just screwing up, the economy. They're really screwing up the balance of the world.
Yeah.
Because, with all these ridiculous safety standards, walking through a metal plant factory with hundreds of tons of metal over top of your head and then being like, wear this plastic hard hat. What is that thing going to do for me? It's just getting in the way. It's bothering me. But instead, what you do is you slow down the economic process, but you're also killing, you're also saving people that sometimes nature meant to remove for the gene pool. You know what I mean? Like, and eventually when you get to the point,
selection.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like, well, if we don't let everybody take some chances here, then, look at Bert. He probably shouldn't have been doing wheelies in the forklift. Now Bert flipped it over and crushed his neck. That's a lesson to everybody else around there. Maybe not do that or wear your seatbelt.
You brought something up that has brought an old memory back and a story, and it's very brief. Offshore, tragedies happen offshore, okay? It's a very dangerous environment, especially oil and gas. A lot of swinging loads, cranes, overhead loads, which are a big no-no. Anyway, unfortunately, a load got away from the crane operator. It was a 20-foot Connex up in the air, came down and killed a guy. Now, the safety officer came out to the scene. Now, I wasn't there. This is secondhand.
Yeah.
I wasn't there. But apparently his first comment was the basically deceased person, was he wearing a hard hat?
Wow.
He just had a fully loaded 20-foot Connex land on him.
I know where that question came from.
And I can tell you the consequence of that. The guy he asked the question to punched him and knocked him clean out.
How about that? But look, it's the same thing with the healthcare industry. When these insurance companies have basically taken over and are running these operations, because you want to get down to brass tacks about like who's behind the scenes manipulating a lot of the things that go on at these major corporations or with the healthcare industry. Exactly.
Hospital administrators.
Yeah, it's the insurance companies. It's that's back in the day, the healthcare in this country, even though Rockefeller medicine had already started, was way more patient driven and doctor-patient relationship driven. But then in the late 60s, early 70s, when the insurance companies basically merged and took over the healthcare industry, all of a sudden you've got this.
It became a treatment.
Yeah,
industry,
it's a factory farm type situation,
not a cure. Industry.
Well, and like doctors, I mean, this is kind of well known now, but insurance companies, you're getting paid for 15 minutes per patient. That's it. So if a patient comes in with a complicated history of this, that, and the other thing that has been going on in their life, all they're looking at is the symptom and then what drug on the chart treats that symptom. You know what I mean? Instead of investigating into, what kind of environment are you in?
Mm-hmm.
What are you eating? What are you, where's your water coming from? Where, all these different things that should be investigated. But when you're only getting paid for 15 minutes, you're never going to do that.
Well, but you're also, all the studies and these double-blind studies and everything that they put forward for their data points with, like you say, Rockefeller medicine, is all driven by who sponsors those studies. And the studies are sponsored by, strangely enough, the pharmaceutical industry.
That's right.
And you can manipulate statistics and all of that to get the data points that you're looking for. Yeah. Now, that's me being cynical, but that's where we're at.
That's the truth.
That's where we're at.
It's not cynical.
And so they're not looking at homeopathic, holistic medicine in any way, shape, or form as a treatment. And their excuse is because they haven't done double-blind studies and they don't have the data points and blah, blah, blah. Well, these studies, I mean, are horrendously expensive, which is why the pharmaceutical companies are the ones that sponsor the ones that they want the answer they know they're going to get from doing double-blind study for the proprietary drug that they're punting. Mm-hmm. So to me, stop that industry, stamp it out, and I'd say stop pharmaceutical advertising across the TV. That's all we get, and it's horseshit.
Yeah,
and it's just a disaster. And whoever allowed that to happen is like, well, let's bring back cigarette ads. All right. If you want to stop doing pharmaceutical ads in the same breath, let's bring back cigarette ads. Let's bring back alcohol ads. Let's bring back vaping ads, and throw it all in the mix because they're the same bloody animal.
Yeah. What gets me is how anyone trusts. Like, I don't trust doctors at all. I mean, I really don't. I've seen them firsthand, like ruin people's health, and with a smile on their face, like they're doing a great job, and won't listen when you bring up like real issues, or when you reverse someone who they said had to go on dialysis, and in a 2-month period you get their kidney function back to functioning completely normal, and the doctor wants no word of what you did to do that. So I have no patience for it. But a good example is back in the day, it was 9 out of 10 doctors recommend Lucky Strike cigarettes, right? You know what I mean? With a guy in a lab coat, and they had real doctors signing off on and telling people to smoke and everything. These people are a bunch of shills, and they'll go wherever the money is. I mean, look, pushing the vaccine, the COVID vaccine. Oh, I mean, they made hundreds of millions of dollars. These doctors did if they got enough people to take these damn poison shots.
Yep.
And no one's walking that back.
No, and they won't.
You know, I mean, what are you kidding me?
And because eventually they're going to come out with some other disease is going to come, and they're going to push mRNA on that.
Well, look, during the opioid crisis, if you read Beth Macy's book, Dope Sick, she goes into it. Watch the show. These doctors were getting lavish trips, vacations, bonuses, and everything for prescribing just massive amounts of OxyContin. I mean, these people were putting Pablo Escobar to shame.
There was one town in Kentucky. There's a tiny little village of a town. It had not even 1,000 people, and they were prescribing. It was something like 15 million pills a year out of the pharmacy there.
Good Lord!
I'm not even shitting you. Yeah.
Wow.
And I mean, I knew people around here that were driving down to Florida once a month and would take a van full of people with them. They would pay for them to get their MRIs down there. It was $500 for each one. And they were walking away with thousands and thousands of pills every month.
Wow.
And these places down there in Florida knew.
They're complicit. Of course they are.
But they were making their money, and then you take these pills, and I saw it back in the day, at least in certain time frames, like you'd get upwards to $1, per milligram. So if it's a 40, then you're getting $40 per. And if you got, 140s, you're talking about making hundreds and hundreds of thousands a year.
And is it any surprise that when we invade and take over Afghanistan, the most poppy-rich region of the world at that point, that then all of a sudden the raw product is getting transferred into what it was getting transferred into and pushed on. Look, it's the same thing they did with the crack epidemic in the 80s, and they targeted the black community with that, right? They flew in all the cocaine for arms that were going down to the Contras, and then their CIA chemist that came up with the formula to make crack gave it out to Freeway Ricky Ross in Los Angeles, and he flooded the United States with crack cocaine, targeted the black community, locked up more blacks than...
Because people forget that cocaine and crack laws were different.
Well, and Joe Biden was responsible for that.
Well, and on that opioid issue, I mean, did y'all see where the Supreme Court rejected the Sackler family settlement?
Yeah.
So now, that's got blown up.
Well, and so with the
and that was a good decision.
Well, it depends on who you ask, because that would have allowed the Sacklers to basically go back to being millionaires and enjoying their life.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want that.
Right.
No.
Yeah, we don't want that.
Yeah.
No, it was one of those devil in the details compromises. But the opioid epidemic is a carbon copy of that, except it targeted white middle class America.
Yeah,
that's who it targeted.
Now,
so
let me,
and specifically Appalachia.
Yeah,
I want to get us back on track here and start a subject matter that we are all itching to get into. Let's have a little bit of a discussion about that debate, shall we?
Oh my God!
Who wants to kick it off?
Yeah. I'm going to let you, because you're chomping at the bit.
I know, he's ready.
No, I know.
I'll be honest, I didn't watch it. I listened to it the following day on Timcast, to where I just heard the commentary and I heard it, but...
You had to see it.
I had a drinking game live, and let me tell you, by 45 minutes into it, I was shit-faced. It was just like, I can't believe what's going on.
It was shocking. I was live tweeting it for being libertarian, and just hearing what I was hearing and seeing it in real time as he just faded. And Trump being able to just sit back and sort of
he let him
take
do
a
it.
shot.
It was the smartest move Trump has ever made.
Well, and that format, the debate format, helped
him.
It helped him tremendously.
God bless CNN. I mean, that double picture with his mouth again.
Well, they kept showing him. They kept showing him, and it's like, who is in the booth deciding to do that? Look.
Well, it seems like that's
the knives were out beforehand. They knew they were coming. This was all.
Here's a conspiracy
planned.
for you, Stuart.
Yeah,
I've got a feeling that was a soft coup by the progressives
to get him out
in the Democratic Party.
Yeah,
that was definitely a soft coup.
Well,
now incidentally, it was only about an hour or two ago that Harris and Biden came out saying they were absolutely 100% running. They weren't dropping out.
Yep.
And what a wonderful thing it was. And unfortunately, it was just a bad cold and he had a bad day.
Yeah.
That sounds like Hunter and Jill talking.
Well, it does rather, doesn't it? And now Kamala's in on this. Now, here comes the other counter conspiracy here. Kamala has absolutely no hope, right, of being elected as a presidential candidate.
No.
Right, so there's no hope there. She's barely hanging on to a VP ticket. Now, and she is the narcissist of all narcissists, right?
Yes.
She is determined to put and position herself in a place where, God forbid, the president dies in office and then she gets her just reward.
Uh-huh.
Now, that to me is very, very disturbing. And that's what they've just presented.
Yeah. I mean, that's been the fear all along.
But what's the game behind that?
Why?
To me, that's a Kamala Harris ploy. And she's going to play on family Biden going, oh, yeah, keep him in office.
Well, I think there's obvious factions of that.
Well, it's her
radical left.
This is her only political future.
Yeah.
That she has ahead now. This is it. That's her last play.
Yeah. It definitely is. And I mean, look since the debate, apparently now in all of the security briefings and everything else, it's Biden, Jill, Hunter is now a convicted felon, is sitting in on all the high-level meetings in the Oval Office now.
How's he going to get his coke in?
Sorry.
He already did.
He already did. And I think it might have been Joe's coke.
Could have been.
You know what I mean? Like, they're keeping it.
No, he didn't perform like he was on that.
No, he didn't that night.
He slid off the planet.
That's why I think there's a whole thing going on behind the scenes that set that whole deal up.
Oh, for sure.
I don't think his doctors drugged him with what they thought he was going to get. Because, look, that State of the Union address, he came out.
Oh, he was on fire.
Spitting fire. And I mean, it was like.
But now we only know he's good between the hours of 10 and 4.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to be.
You got to put him up.
Oh, by the way, if we're going to do anything against the US, let's do it after 1600.
That's right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Good idea. Good idea.
Be asleep.
And we know he's going to be a late riser. Now, what happened with the Normandy invasion when our man Adolf, he wasn't allowed to be awoke. He was asleep during the Normandy invasion. They didn't wake him to bring in that Panzer division that could have actually stopped the Normandy invasion on the beaches. Oh no. He was asleep on the job. Well, now we're presented with exactly the same scenario.
Yeah, I think it's look, I think it was a setup. I think that the knives, look, you know the knives were out because all of the mainstream media immediately spouting all of the same talking points within seconds of the debate being over, right? I mean, that just doesn't happen.
It was
they weren't even acting like ready. They were, look, and
they were primed.
They want to act like they were surprised that, a week ago they were making deep fakes of him wandering off. I mean, that's what they were claiming right before the debate was that, oh no, these are edited videos.
That's what the press secretary,
these are edited videos.
Jean-Pierre Dipshit was saying. She was like, these are deep fakes or whatever.
Yeah, edited videos to make him look bad. Look, Tucker Carlson just gave an interview I guess it was yesterday, saying that he he's known the Bidens for a long time. Hunter and him were neighbors 10, 15 years ago or something. And he knows Joe Biden's sister. And he said that one of the Bidens told him in 2019 that he had dementia then.
It's no surprise.
So, I mean,
it wasn't a surprise when he was running in 2020.
Yeah, well, I mean,
really?
Obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we knew when they hit him away in 2020 and he didn't leave his basement. I mean, the guy was half incoherent then.
Well, what we're being presented now is actually unbelievably scary.
Oh, it really is.
In that we now have a DNC strategy that's going to be changing from week to week.
Well, so the Obamas sat down with him this weekend. Big Obama, not Big Mike, but the other one. The one who wears the dresses, not the one who wears the pants. You know,
right? Sounds like it didn't do any good.
Barry, the one that wears the dresses.
Finish it right here.
He sat down with him and tried to convince him to not run, and that didn't go well. But the Bidens and Obamas hate each other. They didn't get along when he was vice president, so that's no surprise. And apparently, they marched in every influential Biden outsider Democrat they could to try to convince him to step aside, and Jill won't let it happen.
Well, she's the biggest narcissist of them all.
She's a power hungry. You know what?
Absolutely,
right? She's scary.
And her performance actually after the debate, number one, helping him down 2 minuscule steps that were basically, I would consider a ramp.
I know.
I mean, that optic.
And the fact that CNN
dreadful.
left the cameras on for that tells you all you need to know.
Right. Yep.
Right?
Very much so.
Most people don't think about those sorts of things, but once you've watched enough of this, you start
because you've been protecting them for years and years now.
It was
and
a
then
hit job.
Now the covers are off.
The switch flip.
It was a hit job.
It was 100% a hit job.
But if they haven't talked him into stepping down, then what does that mean? Because obviously this is
what it's going to mean is the convention is going to be. But see, here's the thing with the convention. So Ohio changed their laws with how long you have to be, the nominee for them to get on the ballot. It's 90 days, right? And the convention falls after that 90-day period, so he wasn't going to be on the ballot. So what the Dems are actually doing is a virtual convention in like 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, the time crunch. They're on a time crunch.
Yeah, they're going to do a virtual convention in 2 or 3 weeks where they actually vote for the nominee. So I think that whole thing was set up beforehand to try to do all of this undercover and knife him in the back and get him out before the actual convention even happens.
He survived the first coup, which was today, right? So he's come out very strongly.
Yeah,
that he is running. He's going to be on the ticket. He's not backing down. That is today. What I anticipate over the next day or two is we're going to see a lot of the big DNC contributors.
They're bailing.
Sure.
Yeah.
And they're already starting to.
And they're already starting. Now, at that point, this strategy is going to change again because without the big money behind Biden, it's done.
Well, you know what I wonder about, because I do a lot of guardianship cases. And so I don't know what the laws in D.C. are on guardianships. But I'm just reverse engineering this. I know one of the ways you can actually get somebody on the ballot for the presidency this late in the game is if they're declared incompetent.
Yeah.
So it would not surprise me for somebody to file for a competency hearing on him, as a guardianship in D.C. And it wouldn't surprise me to see that happen. But that would be one way I could see him backdooring somebody else in. You get him declared incompetent, and then you can basically have whoever wins the DNC.
That's a constitutional crisis and a half that
it is,
want to avoid.
But they don't try to avoid any of that, though. They're just going to roll right through it if they think they're going to lose.
This has been gamed out already.
Well, they're going to lose.
We just don't know the answer, but. Absolutely, this is a strategy in a game, and it is in full play, and I love it. Watching this lot crumble is fantastic.
You just wish that the rest of the world wasn't on such a knife's edge with this happening.
Well, look at Europe now. It's such a massive swing to the right with France and Macron going down the toilet. The Germans, obviously, the Austrians are maintaining a right-wing stance on everything as they do. The Italians are going right. I mean, Europe is about to implode.
Did you hear about that? FIFA is investigating the Turkish player who scored the goal because he gave a hand sign after he scored that they said was an ultra-right nationalist hand sign.
No
I
way.
mean, give me a fucking break with this.
I thought Seth Blatt was out of that, that guy was gone.
Well, but that just shows you that the world... governing
geopolitics now is
it's everywhere, and they are out on all sides trying to squash this kind of populist. They call it ultra right. It's populism, man. People have had enough, and they're trying to squash it every which way they can.
Yeah,
but what's happening is insurgent math. That every time they go in here, that's was it Big Masters or whatever Colonel kind of coined that phrase. Basically, he said, if you have 10 Taliban and you kill 2 Taliban, how many do you have?
Well, that's right,
1,000.
Yeah,
and he said 20.
Yeah.
And now all of their friends and family are going to show up. So the more they continue to try and push out these, it's like one of those boats in the cartoon that gets a hole and it goes stick their thumb over the one hole, then it pops up. Like I think there's enough of us around this country right now, and every time that they screw over, somebody else, and it's just complete nonsense. You see a massive group of people more and more just reaching out.
Yep.
Well, you know what?
Here's a great analogy, right? It's like pouring gasoline down one of those hornet nests in your lawn, and then you light the darn thing, and smoke starts appearing from all different places. You know, all the little tunnels, all that. Let's smoke them out. Let's do it. Pour gasoline down the damn main hole and see what happens. Light and retire.
Yeah, it's what's happening.
Because it makes you wonder. I mean, it's so hard to not think this is all yarn spinning for entertainment. Because if you look at it, politics has become the new NFL, the new WWE, the new Hollywood. I mean, they don't go after people based on character anymore. They either go after people who it's like NASCAR, who can sail. The best drivers in the world aren't out there on Sundays driving. I hate to tell you, there are phenomenal drivers and these short tracks all around the country. But sometimes Bubba doesn't look like he can put on the side of a shampoo commercial. So he doesn't really, you know what I mean? Like Danica Patrick was out there for 7 years running around the track, destroying more equipment than any one person should ever be expected to. Why? Because she sold a crap ton of T-shirts and a crap ton of women watched not because she was a good. I mean, she was okay, you know, but. I mean, I'll give her credit. I mean, I think she finished in top 10 in Martinsville one time. That's not an easy track to go do that feat. I mean,
just to be in that.
So she's, you know, she's not. She obviously
she
can drive.
She was actually a really good IndyCar driver before she came over.
Yeah,
but the whole coming over to NASCAR thing was complete publicity.
It was a sideshow.
Yeah,
but I mean, that's what politics has become. Everybody nowadays has to have their team, and it doesn't matter what happens. You know, think about a football game. You'll be watching it with your buddy. You'll be a Redskins fan. He'll be a Cowboys fan. It'll be the most blatant and obvious penalty you've ever seen in your life. And you're just going to be like, I don't know. You know what I mean? But if it happened to your guy on the next series, you're going to be like, that's the biggest bullcrap ever. This is what we do. And once again, this whole Joe Biden thing, this is, you know, Young and the Restless 2.0. It's like, is he going to step down from power, or is Jill, the power hungry wife, come in and stop it? Or is Kamala going to, you know, this is, in the meantime, they are just screwing us into the ground for every which way from Sunday. We're focusing on this geriatric old fart and his, you know, see you next Tuesday wife.
Let's consider
it is interesting.
The excuse that they're putting this bad performance on. Number one was it cold, and then it was about it, and this one catches me because I love it, and they think we're really stupid. All right, guess what? We're not. Air Force One. They're blaming, you know, jet lag and the 2 international trips across the pond, right? So he was jet lagged and worn out and what have you, and can only operate between the hours of 10 and 4. But let's not forget, Air Force One has a king-size bed for the president. So that excuse is
just like Epstein's played.
Touche, Stuart. That was a good one. So, I mean, the excuses are just complete shallow bullshit.
Yeah.
You know, that should be exposed. It's just like, no, there's a bed on Air Force One for the president.
Look, they've been trying to tell us that he's not senile and brain dead for 3.5 years.
So they're caught in that trap, and they can't get out of it.
No, they can't. Even the press yesterday was questioning old Poodle Lady, press secretary, that they were like, does he have dementia? She was just, I mean, she's the worst press secretary I've ever seen in my life, man. I mean, at least Jen Psaki was like competent. You know what I mean?
She was chosen specifically to not take any responsibility for anything. Yeah, she can't be held accountable.
We'll circle back.
Yeah,
exactly. She's the circle back lady.
Yeah, but I mean, at least she had intelligence about it. I mean, she could, you know, do her job. Credit to her.
Yes.
But the one chick was the absolute best, though. Kayleigh McNamara or whatever her name was.
Yeah, was
for the Trump.
She was great.
She was
competent.
Yeah, competent, easy on the eyes. She had her big folder every single day, so she could like fact check you on the spot.
Oh yeah, she was hot.
But you know, now we're reduced to whatever the hell that.
It's a sorry excuse. It's a sorry excuse that should be given. You know, international press coverage. I find that very disturbing.
Well, I mean, it's just propaganda. I mean, well, they're propaganda.
And the tribe gets away with anything. I mean, they don't hold themselves accountable for anything.
Now, so I think we've covered the debacle of the debate.
Well, let's just say one thing, because Biden was, you know, what it was, but I didn't think Trump was that impressive either.
No,
like when you listen to his answers for questions. You've listened to
Billy's being so unprofessional here.
When I just thought that he was all he had to do was stand there and not look, you know, and not interrupt what Biden was doing to himself. But if you actually listen to the things that he said, he wasn't that great.
He wasn't great, but I've got to give him credit where there was blatant mistruths, I'm calling them downright lies.
Oh, they were lies,
were spouted by Biden. And a number of statements that he made were shocking.
Yeah.
But then the panel from CNN went back to Trump and would ask him a question. Now, he would let the question come out,
and
which
then
is fair enough. But then he'd go
respond
back
to what Biden said.
Respond.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's smart. That was a very good strategy that worked very well for him.
It did. And that was smart.
Yeah.
Because
it took control away from the guys that were basically controlling that narrative.
Just for a second, let's talk about how it looks to just most common Americans to see these two old white men up there arguing about golf.
Look how pathetic.
I mean, so you want to talk about boomers? I mean, it was.
Yeah, I mean, inflation is killing us. Groceries are 4 times what they cost.
You can't hit the ball 50 yards. You can't carry your bag on the course. You can't. It was come on.
It was 8th grade crap, right?
It was.
Now, and I've just come to my mind was I've seen a number of clips that come back from this now, and when you look at Trump's image from CNN, they obviously changed their color tint, and made him look extra orange.
Yeah.
Now that's very disingenuous.
Of course it is.
However, Biden looked like death warmed up. So you either got, super orange man or a stiff.
Oh yeah, I mean,
what was going on there? But again, it's manipulation. This is subliminal manipulation in presenting, what should have been an unbiased debate.
But that's what tribalism is. It's just pushing your narrative regardless of your position, and
I'm so offended by that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
we should be.
Why would you do such a thing? I mean, it is that is. Hey,
but that's why they've lost almost all credibility. That's why no one watches them. That's why.
Well, this was well watched. This had good.
Well,
viewers.
the debate, but I'm just talking in general. Like,
we don't trust them.
Like, I mean, even Fox News,
so.
People are tuning out from that. They finally have realized that if Fox is it's just as bad as the rest of them.
Well, here's what happened. I think they played the long game, and you have to play the long game when it comes to something like this. And they spent years and years. Yuri Bezmenov even told us this. He said, they would, slowly infiltrate and take America down from the inside.
Yeah.
And I believe we got to the point around 2010 where we all started coming together, and they had to put it into hyper focus and put it into hyper gear. And I think they overstepped their bounds. I think they started biting off more than they can chew.
Yeah.
And because I don't believe when they started putting people into power, back in the 60s and 70s to try and, get this communist thing going, I don't think they ever anticipated the internet, and how could they? And so what happened is in 2010, we started finally revolting, and it pushed their plan. Because remember, you always heard Agenda 2020 or whatever, and then Agenda 2030, everything gets pushed back.
They pushed
because
the
internet comes around, and all of a sudden people are like, okay, and after 2010, that's when YouTube started cracking down. Yeah. That's when you couldn't find any more backwoods information. Because there was a time where, there was a lot of crazy stuff on the internet, but we all figured it out to what was kooky and what wasn't kooky. We were starting to ask the right questions. That's when Ron Paul started getting, and then all of a sudden, the word racism skyrockets in all publications across the country, like New York Times, Washington Post, Seattle, all these major LA Times, all these major publications. The word racism and white supremacy and all this nonsense, just the times used goes up by 1,000% after 2010. And so for the last 15 years, they've been pushing it harder and harder and harder because, their ideology, communism, is just built on a house of cards. It doesn't mean anything. Yeah. And by pushing it into high gear, because we started wising up to them, now they've gotten to the point where they can't go anywhere else, and the walls are caving in on them. And I think we're seriously about to defeat this shit. That's why you're seeing so much panic. That's why you're seeing, basically the Titanic's going down, and they're trying to take all the fine china with them.
Well, the attack, and it is an attack, and let's be very clear about it, the attack on the First Amendment has never been more intense than it has been now. And one of Biden's track records, and I'm going to put my neck out here and say his track record with regards to the First Amendment, he will be considered on a par with John Adams in his attack on First Amendment free speech. And that, let me tell you, is a sorry testament of where we are today.
Yeah, he had one of his stooges, or, whoever had one of their stooges at the New York Times put out I don't know if it was front page or not, but a giant piece that the headline was, we've got to do something about the First Amendment. It's
First Amendment is
completely out of
crushing us.
control.
Yeah.
Or something, I forget the exact wording, but
that's rich from a newspaper.
yeah,
right?
and then like
they're losing the narrative.
Like if you kind of read through the
Exactly.
article, I mean, it was insane what they were saying in this article. I mean,
but that's what they believe.
It is. Well, if you're
insane.
agreeing with them, you can say it. But if you've
insane.
got any sort of dissenting opinion, you should be locked up in a FEMA camp for the rest of your life.
Well, therein lies the definition of fascism.
It's what it is.
You know, and don't think that's exclusive to the right, as I have said many, many times.
No, it's
and don't
not.
look up a Google Wikipedia definition of fascism,
And
because
look,
I will punch you.
Well,
in
you
the
know,
throat.
you got the people out there right now screaming how Trump is going to use the Justice Department to lock up his political opponents. They're always yelling, saying that the right or who their opponent is going to do exactly what they're already doing now.
You've given me the perfect
It's like
Stuart.
Hillary with the whole Russia thing. She was in bed with the Russians with the Uranium One deal and a bunch of other stuff, and they always turn it around and throw it out to cover their own shit.
Well, that's Zelensky's rule for radicals right there.
Exactly.
Basically accuse your opponent of the thing you're doing.
Well, we've touched on something that allows us to go into another segment of discussion, which I think is very, very relevant right now, because we're seeing the Supreme Court come out with a
bunch
of decisions that are very impactful. And I'm going to ask for our legal opinion here with Chip and say, can you explain, because I've got a layman's grasp of it, but I'd like you to explain the Chevron, what the hell is it called? It's the deference.
The Chevron deference case.
I'd love you to explain it, because that could be one of the most impactful things that is going to adjust how government works in the future, and it's massive.
It is.
And basically what it's doing is curtailing federal powers that have basically been unchecked for years, for I guess over a decade. And I think Spike Cohen nailed it. So I'm just going to read his tweet on the Chevron deference case. For those who don't understand what Chevron deference is and why SCOTUS ended it, here's the long and short of it. A family fishing company, Loper Bright Enterprises, was being driven out of business because they couldn't afford the $700 per day they were being charged by the National Marine Fisheries Service to monitor their company. The thing is, federal law doesn't authorize the National Marine Fisheries Service to charge businesses for this. They just decided to start doing it in 2013 on their own. Why did they think they could get away with just charging people without any legal authorization? Because in 1984, in the Chevron decision, the Supreme Court decided that regulatory agencies were the experts in their field, and the court should just defer to their interpretation of the law.
Unconstitutional.
Exactly. And so for the past 40 years, federal agencies have been able to interpret laws to mean whatever they want, and the courts had to just go with it. It was called Chevron deference, and it put bureaucrats in charge of the country. It's how the OHSA was able to decide that everyone who worked for a large company had to get the jab or be fired. No law gave them that authority. They just made it up. It's how the ATF was able to decide a piece of plastic was a machine gun. It's how the NCRS was able to decide that a small puddle was a protected wetland. It's how out-of-control agencies have been able to create rules out of thin air and force you to comply, and the courts had to simply defer to them because they were the experts. Imagine if your local police could just arrest you for any reason and no judge or jury was allowed to determine if you'd actually committed a crime or not. Just off to jail you go. That's what Chevron deference was. It was not only blatantly unconstitutional, it caused immeasurable harm to everyone, and thankfully it's now gone. We haven't even begun to feel the effects of this decision in the courts. It will be used for years to come to roll back federal agencies, and we'll all be better off for it.
It is that massive.
Oh, it's huge.
You know, I mean, we've been at the mercy of this, particularly with the CDC and the EPA, and I'm not even going to mention the ATF. I arseholes. But to take that back, and this is referring back to the constitutionality of how Congress works. They are the legislative branch, and that is it, full stop.
You can't create powers that aren't...
We don't defer to an ABC bloody agency to write a law that they interpret. Hell no. This is not how the Constitution is designed, and it is absolutely unconstitutional. And I am delighted to see this Chevron deference get scratched and we get back to getting our constitutional representatives the power to make laws that run this country. Bloody right to.
It's a huge bite out of what has been termed the deep state.
Well, here comes a bigger thing as well, and it's been one of my gripes for many, many years, is that this country has been run really over the last several decades through executive power.
Yeah.
And that is not how this country is supposed to be run.
Rolling, expanding executive power.
Yes.
So, I mean,
expanding with every 4 years.
Because now we're in a dictatorship and an oligarchy with executive power. Absolutely unconstitutional. If we don't address this, we're done.
Yeah.
And this goes scratching that Chevron. What the bloody hell's that word? Deference was a major step in curtailing what we are seeing in how our country has been taken over by the bureaucracy and the deep state. It's a massive blow for them, and I thoroughly support it, and we are going in the right direction. Thank you, the Supreme Court.
Didn't I see something as well that it also said that some statute of limitations would be lifted on some of the things they're now responsible for, that people could actually turn around and go back and start essentially suing these agencies or whatever for a lot of the things they've done.
That's one of the, I think, dissents pointed out that there are going to be a throng of lawsuits now coming against all these agencies that's been opened up. So that was, they were thinking it's going to grind everything to a halt, which everybody else is like, awesome.
Problem, I mean, I like grinding it to a halt, but the problem is that it's just,
we're all going to suffer for it.
We spend so much fucking money anyways. I guess
well, it's still giving power to attorneys.
It's just all this taxpayer money going to paying these $500 an hour attorneys to, go circle jerk each other in court.
We're now lining the pockets of, these firms that are very litigious.
It goes back to old Jerry Hodges saying it all goes back to the Bar Association.
Well, Jerry would have been a great co-host here to come in and really give some very scathing comments about that. And
I'll tell you, though,
it's a shame he's not here.
It is true. Like my grandfather, who just passed away, was a farmer his whole life. And in the past 20 years or so, the EPA was so far up their asses on every single little thing. And these are people that, since the 1950s, had been stewards of the land, because the land is what gave them their life. You know what I mean? They weren't out there to destroy it. They weren't out there to pollute it. They understood how it worked. They understood how the river flows and what you need to do.
And then the lobbyists got involved.
The trees you need to be able to remove to make sure that shit works correctly. There's hundreds and hundreds of things that then these agencies got involved in. And at one point, he was facing, I think it was like going to be $7,500 a day fines, and they're doing that to farmers across the country.
Yeah, right now in Idaho, they've told all the farmers to shut off their water during the potato crops.
They reached an agreement on that.
I was going to say the farmers should have just said F off.
Yeah, they reached an agreement on that, but it even got to the point where in the last 5 years, the EPA was flying drones around everywhere, checking on different stuff. I mean, it got insane.
Well, they're becoming enforcers, and again, that is not their job.
Yeah,
I mean that's judicial.
Yeah,
right. Oh, hang about.
Well, and somebody's giving them the directive to do that.
Yeah, but these are basic concepts of government that are being walked over.
Yeah,
and we as a people have let this happen. And thankfully, we're seeing a massive pushback against this now. That gives me hope for the future.
How is it though that the same Supreme Court that did that then voted just before one of the cases they released, actually right before the debate, where they basically said, the federal government could tell these social media companies to censor anything they want.
Well,
I mean, that boggled my mind.
Well, it was the issue they went on was standing, though. So they didn't actually address that issue. They just I agree with you, but that was they didn't actually say that. They said that these people don't have the standing to bring this case. So they didn't actually address that.
They said about the election, which was insane to me. You're the Supreme Court
So what needs to happen is people who have standing need to bring the suit.
They were being targeted. Their houses were being, you know what I mean? Like the mob mentality probably scared them off during that. They didn't want to be the arbiters of what was essentially, I don't think it was the most important election of our lifetime. I know it's cliche to say. I think this upcoming one is. I think it almost had to happen. If things are ever going to turn around, Donald Trump needed to lose, and the country needed to go into a tailspin. Because what happens is if you're on the winning side, you become, you know, especially the conservative people in this country. When you're on the winning side, then you kind of go into a lull when your person's in power, and you ignore quite a few things that you probably shouldn't. But you don't have that fire about you. Well, you have that fire about you when you know.
Brought to the forefront how corrupt our elections actually are, and I think that's. I've said it a bunch of times on here. I think that's the number one thing, because if you can't have an election that you actually believe in and have faith in, that was run ethically, and the actual person who, you know, wins, then what are we doing here?
Didn't they teach that, like, growing up in, you know, social studies, to have sovereignty? Like, you had to have that. If you didn't, look
at what's going on in Lynchburg with that city council election that happened a week or two ago. I mean, there's all sorts of nonsense going on with that. I know Representative Good here from District 5 or Region 5, whatever it is here in Virginia, he's under heat because they're doing a bunch of corrupt shit trying to get him out right now. And it's...
I thought they screwed him and got him out. I thought they primaried him.
They confirmed his loss today.
Oh, they confirmed it today.
Elections, yeah, did.
See? And he was one of the 20 that was for real.
Like, he voted with Thomas Massey probably 95% of the time, and that's my metric right there. So every time I would look, I'd say, well, Massey voted for it against it, so did Good. He was right there. But,
yeah.
Like, we had a good one here in Virginia. Yeah.
He was great. And then they got rid of him, and they did it through bullshit electioneering, you know? So.
Again, manipulation.
Yeah.
It is.
It's
else?
It's downright thievery.
Oh, of course it is. Now, what else is coming out with the Supreme Court at the moment?
The immunity case.
Thing.
Oh, that was huge.
That's massive.
It was huge, but the left is making it the biggest deal on earth. But this has been the law for decades.
It has.
As it is. They just codified it a little more. I mean,
it's a storm in
they just sort of confirmed it.
Well, you know who hasn't commented on it? Clinton, Bush, or Obama, because now you can't go to Obama and say, gee, you remember that American citizen you drove bombed without Miranda rights?
That's right.
They're the only one, everybody else is up in arms. I mean,
meanwhile, all of these crazed leftists are out there saying that Biden needs to kill Trump now because he's got immunity to. It's the most insane.
Well, that's how you can tell that they're not sincere.
Yeah,
in their, it's truly narrative driven.
Well, but the narrative is so disingenuous.
Yeah.
That it's insulting to my intelligence. I'm not really punting that.
But they kind of rely on that, if you think about it, because they continue to do it. It's their playbook.
Well, if you say it enough, if someone's going to believe you, right? Who said who was behind that theory? There was some famous chap that said if you repeat it enough times, it will become the truth.
Well, that's what they do. I mean,
that's why I said I wanted to go into politics. That's why I got my degree in political science. I said if you get to the point, with math or science or anything like this, there's usually always an answer that you have to get to through, evidence and processes and things of this nature. But in politics, nothing has to be true. You just have to get people to believe it.
Well, that's like there's.
But I'm too honest to actually.
What's left on the Supreme docket, though?
People out there can actually kind of do this experiment, but what you were saying about say it enough and it becomes the truth. Every day, Morning Joe, which is Joe Scarborough, who killed a pregnant intern in his office, and the body was found when he was a congressman. Allegedly killed his intern. I mean, she was definitely found dead in his office. She was dead in his office, and she was pregnant with his baby. Anyway. His show with Mika Brzezinski, who is Signu Brzezinski's daughter, the grand chessboard guy, the guy who helped him and Kissinger basically ran the world for about 40 or 50 years. They have a morning show, Morning Joe. It's on for 4 hours. And all of the talking points for the day, all of the narratives for the day are seated on that show. And then every other left-wing show repeats those narratives all day long. The exact talking points, and it hammers it into whoever's watching these networks' heads. And it's a 24-hour cycle. Then the next morning, the next narrative comes out. And you can actually just see it, and then how that narrative grows and becomes fact throughout the day because it's just been heard so many times from so many different talking heads.
Tweeted and retweeted by all those folks.
Yeah.
The Harry Sissons,
they'll go out there and or they'll say,
it's
we get this from a source close to this individual.
That's right.
The source close to him might have been a bum standing on the side of the road 20 feet away when he walked by, and they just went up to him and,
Well, it's some think tank that sits up between the hours of midnight and 4 a.m. writing the day's talking points, and then they get them to Morning Joe at 6, and there it goes.
Well, the other bit of news with Trump was that they moved his sentencing date.
That's right.
Because of this immunity issue. So they'll now assess whether that applies to his case or not before they sentence him.
And this has been such a shocking case of targeted sedition in my mind. With how Trump has been treated.
It's insane.
I mean, this is so offensive.
To the degree it's helped him, that shows you that it's
very much
it's
so.
just been
Very much so. But it's highlighted a very embarrassing state of the United States. Internationally, this is a fucking laughingstock.
Look, I mean, he was convicted on the hush money payment, which looks. To begin with, Stormy Daniels denied there ever even being a relationship. She's on record saying that. And then all of a sudden that tune changed. And, we get to where we are now where convicted liars are saying, this and that, and they're the star witnesses.
You get Cohen coming on.
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing,
they excused a felony by him who admitted
at
to
the
a felony.
most, it's a minor misdemeanor that was committed at most,
and was heard in federal court
because it's
shitting me.
It's not illegal to pay someone to not say something.
It's done indeed,
especially when they agree to
every day.
Well, especially when there's a congressional slush fund to pay off sexual victims. That I think it's 17 million, or I forget the number that Massey said recently that of how much money's been paid out just over the past 2 decades.
That's absurd.
But
it's an absolute corruption.
But I mean, look, they've gone after him everywhere. He's convicted of slandering a woman to the tune of having to pay $80-something million. Slandering a woman who claims that he raped her. When there's no evidence whatsoever of any sexual assault, the woman is batshit crazy. Her cat's named Vagina.
And a building across the street from his tower where everybody and their cousin knew him.
Yeah.
And he's just going to...
In a Bergdorf's dressing room. And, I mean...
he's one of the biggest playboys in the city at this point in time. You know what I mean?
This is a dog of a woman. I mean, let's be honest.
Her reputation didn't...
This is a woman who was married to a black weatherman in New York City and called him a gorilla and an ape.
What?
Yo, you didn't know that? Yeah. This woman is a piece of work.
She is.
I mean,
it's insane.
So where's the credibility here?
Exactly.
But the more disturbing element to this, right, is the judge then awards these financial,
that's right,
crippling fines.
Well, these are show trials.
To the tune of billions of dollars. Look at Alex
Jones.
Alex
these are
Jones.
Show trials. Like Alex Jones' trial, the same with Trump's trial. He wasn't found guilty by a jury. The judge declared him guilty, and then the jury was only there to decide damages.
To the tune of $1.5 billion or something.
And they weren't even allowed to actually put on a defense.
How absurd is that
any of it
as a penalty?
And I've watched a lot of Alex Jones. He never sent anybody after these Sandy Hook parents. And I'm sorry, but you have every right to question something. You have every right to question something that stinks to high hell.
I saw the video again today of the dad right before
Robbie
he went on.
Parker.
And,
I mean,
and I'm sitting there thinking, now as a father, if something happened to my kid, I don't think I could be out in public. I wouldn't be able to keep myself together. I sure as hell wouldn't be able to laugh and then go somber immediately and just look the entire time. Like I watched it very closely today, and the whole entire time he looks like he's just trying not to giggle.
Look, they released a documentary basically about the trials that Alex went through, right? And you can see these parents because they're all testifying and they're up on the stand trying to work up tears and none of them can. I mean, the whole thing is just, and like my position all along has been, look, if I'm saying that no kids died, why are you so adamant that I'm wrong? Wouldn't you want me to be right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you want me to be right?
Good point.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't want kids to have died.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Alex Jones made some horrendous mistakes, and the narrative that he put forward certainly exposed him to.
How did it expose? No, he didn't make any mistakes. He has every right to have people on like a Wolfgang Halbig, who's a certified school safety expert, who has consulted with hundreds of school districts around the country, who watched the whole thing unfold and said, wait a minute, there's about 500 things that should have gone on that did not happen.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
I'm just saying his narrative and his optic probably didn't do him justice.
Well, but that's not his. But the reason being,
but that's no fault of him.
What they do is the media. The media
yeah.
will cut out his craziest moments, and that's the stuff they'll put all over the news. Like they're turning the frickin' frogs gay. You know what I mean?
They
like,
are.
Yeah, but I mean, and they'll use that clip to make him look insane instead of playing his entire rant leading up to it, which explains what he was talking about. But that's just him getting animated, and so. Yeah, I mean, they went after him because people were questioning. And you
look,
should,
I said all along, not long after it happened, I said, this doesn't feel like it's about gun control. And Sandy Hook never was about gun control. It was about suppressing your First Amendment speech. Because that's what the trial was about. The trial basically says,
now, right?
Yeah, the trial basically says you're not allowed to question these things. You're not allowed to speak about these things.
Well, now
we're going to come after you and shut you down.
We're seeing a lot of that going on right now with Israel and Zionism.
Yeah, that's right.
There are a lot of Texas has basically made it to where I guess if you were a state company or something or some degree, like you can't boycott Israel.
Yeah, Florida too.
Like other places, like anti-Semitism on campus. Look,
yeah.
This is the same nonsense as racism. It's like you can define it however you want to. Basically, anti-Semitism is you don't agree with me in my stance. Like this is unnecessary, and this all of a sudden now makes me want to start questioning things. Like,
well, look,
by the numbers, could you really kill 6 million people in that amount of time?
No,
you know what I mean? Like,
it would have taken 87 years.
Was that war set up so people had a really, really, really good reason to convince the rest of the Jews around the world, hey, we need to come to this country right now where I'll be safe. And now they've got the numbers. You know what I mean? Like, we come in there. I'm just saying, I don't know anything if this is true or not. I mean, I've looked into it. I've watched the videos and stuff, not to a degree where I care enough, but it seems awfully convenient that you go around and these crazy numbers that are starting to get debunked, or at least people are making good arguments against. Mm-hmm. Maybe it wasn't, and I'm hoping that's right. I'm hoping it wasn't 6 million people. Maybe if it was only a couple 100,000 or whatever, but
look,
maybe they allowed it to happen so people would move to Israel.
Look, the Red Cross numbers are probably fairly accurate. About 243,000. That's what they said.
Wow.
And the Red Cross was allowed in right after it happened. I mean, look, now's probably not the forum to go into a big thing about it, but I've researched that extensively, and I mean that whole thing is bullshit. But there's a huge difference between being anti-Semitic and being anti-Zionist.
Okay, absolutely.
And look, the Zionist movement started in the late 1800s, and it is what runs the world today. It runs the banking system. It runs Hollywood. It runs our government. It runs most governments.
But weren't the Rothschilds around before that, though?
They were, but the real Zionist movement started in the late 1800s.
Probably backed by them, correct? Was Rothschilds behind?
Yeah, they
movement?
were part of it. And like the Zionist movement was what was behind the Kennedy assassination. It was
the history of it's
Israel,
fascinating.
and Israel was more than likely set up not as a place to, they used World War II to help get Israel set up, but it's almost like think about like a major corporation, how they have shell companies, right, to hide all the dirty deeds that they're doing. Israel was set up as like a shell company for all these other nations to kind of hide their dirty deeds to run through Israel, and so that's what it's kind of been, and that's what it is. And people are finally starting to catch on that something stinks,
it's a
with
bit
this
like
whole
the
thing.
200
It's kind of the perfect. The perfect
it is
hide in plain sight, because it's like, well, if you question Israel and you
because
question
you can't,
Jesus,
yeah,
and
you
God,
can't
you know what I
question
mean?
it.
It's the
you can't
perfect.
question it.
And I'm saying, and I don't know about the Holocaust. I don't want to get it because I know somebody will, I can't believe you're a denier. No, I'm not a denier. I'm just saying, if they're making it illegal in this country to be able to say things about this country, and this country is ran by these people, then maybe it makes me want to think, well,
Look,
what else are they lying about?
It's illegal.
Hey, let's be honest. Of everything they've lied about over the past 50 years that we can document, shouldn't we be questioning everything? I mean, everything, we should be questioning it.
I'd agree
all
with
the
that.
numbers. Think about what they got away with in the 40s.
Look, I mean, in Canada, you can't question it. They've thrown people like Ernst Zundel in prison for years and years and years, who was a researcher of World War II, who, says that it didn't happen. It definitely, of course people died. Look, both my grandfathers were in war camps, one of them in Germany, one of them in Japan. And the one in Germany, he would talk all about everything that happened. He was like, it was bad. And he was like, the worst part was no food. And he was like, people were dying of starvation every day.
But that wasn't because they were naturally wanting to starve them to death. A lot of that was because all the food had to be going to the front lines.
Well, that and the fact that we were bombing any supply lines that were going into those camps. You know what I mean? So, the whole thing. I mean, it's
the Red Cross, by the way, did a phenomenal job in supporting the POWs behind the lines that were in, these German prisoner camps. The Red Cross did a phenomenal job.
Yeah. And I mean, look, there is no actual provable documentation that the Nazis and Hitler had an extermination program that they were running. But with the Marshall Plan that the United States enacted directly after the war, there is provable documentation that we wanted to exterminate all German males.
Wow.
So
purple smoke.
Look it up, because we ran prison camps after the war there for 3 or 4 years, and those were the stated goals of those prison camps, was to eliminate the German male so that it got extinguished from the planet.
Well, didn't after the war Patton turn around and say that
yes,
that I fear we fought the wrong enemy in this war, we sided with the wrong enemy or something? I mean, that was General Patton.
Yeah,
one of the greatest generals in the history of this country.
I think Sir Winston Churchill had something to say about that in 1949 too.
Oh yeah.
Oh, he was on the same plane. He said, our enemy actually is, the USSR.
Yeah.
And that, we may have been fighting the wrong one.
Well, why did they go to such great lengths in the early 20th century twice to go to war with Germany? Was it because they were so advanced?
Because the Germans had figured out that the Zionist forces that be were the real power, and they were fighting against it. And they were taking everything that happened during those 20 to 30 years was the Germans being 4 steps ahead of everybody else and saying, hey, this is what's actually happening here. And they had to do everything they could to exterminate that.
Are Putin and the Russians doing exactly that now?
I think they are. That's why look.
It begs the question.
Look, Putin has shown extreme restraint in what he has been doing over there. Yeah. Meanwhile, they're goose stepping all over. You know what I mean? Like you want to talk about real Nazis? Oh yeah, well, that's what's going on in the Ukraine.
It makes me wonder if Putin thinks Trump will get reelected, so he doesn't want to go. He doesn't want to go too far.
I think so, and my guess is that they've probably been communicating all along.
And I mean, that should be the thought process of every American all along. It's like, why, if I think we should have good relations with Russia. Does that make me a Putin apologist?
Yeah.
Or I'm a Putin supporter. No, I don't support the government in this country. I sure as hell don't support the one in that country. It's just like they're all crooked assholes. But if we've got the crooked assholes maybe wanting to come together and say, hey, instead of killing each other and wasting all this money, why don't we work together? Y'all have a ton of land over there for food production. People around the world are starving, but they won't because they use all these things as a tool. They use starvation as a tool. Mm-hmm. They use weapons as a tool to press whatever their agenda is. Because at the end of the day, I would much rather get along with Russia. Why? What's the point in fighting? I'm like, what's the point in fighting Cuba? Like, I mean, I get it. Like, why don't we just, it's not that hard to go in there and do what you've done to 100 other dictators over the world if you really care that much, and then be like, all right, y'all free now. I mean, that'd be a beautiful place to visit, I think. Great cigars, great food. Why don't we normalize relations with them and help build these countries up so they're not all trying to float on fucking upside down school buses to get here and ruin everything for us. I'm not saying it's ruining everything from us in a selfish standpoint, but it's tax draining on the people that are actually working to keep this country afloat, and it's all because the people at the top continue to screw up. It's forcing these people to come here in the first place. How about you get your nose out of their business, let them do their thing, and normalize relations instead of being at each other's throats? Like, I don't understand it. I would much rather, North Korea. Why are you hampering on Trump for going there and normalizing? Like, let's calm this madman down. Tell him, look, we'll put a freaking movie theater on every corner so all y'all can, because he loves that stuff, right? He loves American stuff. So,
we'll
hey,
you know
what? We will come in there. We will build you 2 nuclear power plants if you just let your people freaking be free. Give you 2 nuclear power plants and a AMC theater on every block, and
you can turn your power on it.
And a signed basketball by LeBron James.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And in 2019, I was working for the Russians. Just throw that in there. Oh yeah.
Look, man,
with your fake accent.
With my fake accent.
Look, the world has been taken over for a long time by psychopaths, man. These people are bloodthirsty psychopaths, and they're working for, I mean, who knows exactly what the deal is, but
well, at the end of the day, it's all about power. It's the craziest thing. It's all back to power.
But there could be something. I mean,
power and control.
That's it. Control.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a shame because things could be so nice and awesome. You know what I mean? Like,
all these advances in technology.
Most people just get along. One of the things we've kind of learned over this whole crazed woke thing that's going on with them sexualizing the kids in school is that Muslim communities and American communities can stand side by side
together
and fighting against this craziness. You know what I mean? And have a lot more in common than we do.
If you go outside, you'll realize you go everywhere, you're sitting down, you're having conversations, and it's not till you start thinking about what you heard on the TV or saw on social media. It's
that's right.
And I've said this many times before. I said some of the algorithms, I mean, it's nothing but violence in inner cities and stuff, and it really makes me wonder what they are really prepping people for. What are they conditioning people for? Because that's all you're seeing is minorities and immigrants hurting people, raping people, killing people, or jumping people, or fighting in a Waffle House. Like, it's all you see nonstop. Like, what are they conditioning people for?
Well, there's a lot of that going on. But so a gang member in Chicago made a video that went pretty viral the other day, and he was saying that, look, there have been a lot of like treaties between the gangs in Chicago to stop the gun violence. And he said every time it starts to calm down, he said these mystery machines show up and these guys in all black jump out and just start shooting and killing people. So you've had like all these days over the past like 3 or 4 weeks where like, a couple weekends ago it was 80 of them. Last weekend it was like 72. It was like 60, and that's how many people are getting shot dead over a weekend. And he said, we have no idea who these fucking people are that are showing up in these blacked out cars, jumping out and killing 20, 30 people at a time. So
why aren't they firing back? Can't they get these? I mean, can't they get these people? I mean, what?
Well, he didn't say anything about that, but he said those are the reports that he's getting, and that he's actually seen this, where these guys show up, they jump out, shoot real quick, and then they're gone.
And it's like, he's like, we have no idea who these fucking people are.
Well, clearly you don't have that much time to collect all that brass. There's bound to be a couple fingerprints on some
You
of
would
those.
think so.
And that also sounds like a very coordinated
But the problem
thing.
is when the local cops show up to collect the stuff, it's just a knock on the door from the FBI and they take everything away. Because we know what he's insinuating, that the feds are the ones running these ops. You know,
Don't be fooled.
it's just
They
it's just the feds are running these school shooters. The feds are running all this stuff, and it's all to disrupt and keep us all fighting with each other.
It's setting up the ultimate red flag, isn't it?
Yeah,
And we still don't know what the ultimate red flag is, but it's out there.
yeah,
Yeah, I think the next few months are going to be absolutely insane.
yeah.
I think the next few days actually are going to be fairly fairly disruptive in the narrative that we're being fed.
Yeah,
it's gonna change and change and change and change.
Well, not just that, but does Biden's coalition at some point decide to pull a big event to take away?
Will they strike a deal?
Yeah, or strike a deal, or just have like another Vegas shooting happen so that people aren't talking about.
I don't think they can do that anymore. I don't think it matters. I think people are
hip to it, but I don't think they care at this point, man. The mask is off. They don't care.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
They just
Nothing
don't
like that's going
care.
to sway anybody. I don't think anybody they throw in there is going to sway anybody because it's not just Joe Biden. It's the fact that all these people have propped him up. So when they're looking at Biden, they're looking at a conglomerate of people. They're looking at all the media networks. They're looking at all these congressmen. They're looking at anybody with a D next to their name that has been going along with this charade. So in my opinion, it really doesn't matter who they put in there. I don't think they can win in a legitimate election. I'm saying you show up and you put your ballot on a piece of paper, you sign it yourself, you put it through there, and there's 3 people counting, 1 independent, 1 Republican, 1 Democrat, all paper. Trump wins by 50 million votes. Doesn't matter who they put up against him.
Yeah, easily.
But,
and now we contend with, the pollsters that are coming out with utter garbage right now. It's great. These idiots and pollsters are just they are the biggest shysters on the planet.
Yes, they are.
And give them absolutely zero credibility. Don't let them influence your thought process whatsoever. Be independent of thought. Be a critical thinker. We know what's going on.
Yeah.
Don't be the clown. Don't be the sheep.
How about the fact that you had the debate the other night?
That's a bloody good T-shirt. Don't be the clown. Don't be the sheep.
Yeah,
there we go.
Right. You had Biden at the debate the other night looking like death warmed over. And then all of a sudden the next day he's at Waffle House bouncing around, shaking hands after he had such a bad cold at the debate.
And jet lag.
But if you look at the video, that's clearly not Biden the next day.
Here we go.
It's clearly a double.
Well, there's a video that's been circling around here lately. I've seen a handful of times. It's the let me see if I can pull it up right now. Jonah Mendez. I think she was a chief disguised person at the CIA up until 93 or whatever. And the video has been going around. And it's just like some of these masks I've seen in some of these videos.
It's crazy.
It's unreal. You don't know. I mean, apparently she walked into the White House and had a conversation with Bush, and nobody even knew it was her until the very end when she revealed herself. So I mean, it's you don't need body doubles anymore. You can have just any random actor.
Look what Hollywood can do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, they have had to have gotten very sophisticated, because if you look back and really pay attention, which I don't understand how people don't, but if you go back over the early 2000s and look over the years of all the Bin Laden videos, some videos he's right-handed, some he's left-handed, some he's taller, some he's smaller, some of them he's really dark, some of them he's really light. It's like, wait a minute. Some of he's got a wedding ring on his hand, which is forbidden in Islam anyway, and he's a strict religious, person. So,
they've got that. It's like a patch thing they can put on the inside of your cheek that modulates your voice to sound exactly like whoever you're impersonating.
AI is powerful. Watch out, folks.
It's crazy. Man, this was 10, 12 years ago that I saw a video of a guy. He's standing in front of a camera. And then there's a TV screen right beside him, right? The camera's on him, and it's George Bush Jr. on the TV screen. Well, when he moved his left arm, George Bush Jr. moved his left arm.
Strategery.
And when he
That was one of the funniest SNL skits ever.
I couldn't help but thought that.
Lockbox. But so the guy moves his arm. George W. Bush Jr. moves his left arm. The guy says, "Hello, everyone," and George W. Bush says, "Hello, everyone," in his voice on the screen.
Oh,
so the guy's just the camera's on him doing the movements and stuff, but what's showing up on the screen that you're looking at is George W. Bush doing those.
Yeah, the green screen is in play.
So
that
wasn't even like green screen. I don't know exactly what that was, but they were able to
holographs and
something
screen.
like that.
Oh,
yeah,
come on,
same sort of like Tupac shit that they did at Coachella or whatever.
Yeah, it's and people need to wisen up to this kind of stuff. And the reason I think everything's so important now, and I don't want to say election, screw the election, this culture war battle that we're fighting right now, if we don't win it, I mean, the dystopian future we're looking at is, drones flying everywhere, police and everything from the sky. You're talking about drones flying over your house and seeing a garden, and then you getting a bill in the mail, to pay taxes on that garden, even if it's just and if we don't band together now and push this shit out, this is what we're looking at. They're always going to say it's in the name of safety.
Mm-hmm.
No, they continue to create these
national
problems,
security,
and they create the issues that obstruct our safety. They disarm us. They give power to the criminals. They allow these people to get away with essentially murder while putting other people in prison for months and years because of political reasons. And all along they sit there and say, we got to do this for your safety. No, you don't. We can handle ourselves. Y'all get out of the way. And you would see a lot less of this stuff. Like I saw videos in California today where like Amazon or not Amazon, but like delivery drivers, I don't know, box trucks or whatever, now have armed security with them. It's like, you lunatics, just let the delivery driver arm themselves and don't throw them in jail if they defend themselves. You know what I mean? Like it's very simple. That'll end a lot of it really, really quickly because people don't want to end up dead. And if they know that they'll end up getting dealt with if they mess with the wrong person, then you don't have these issues. People start being more polite. An armed society is a polite society, and we govern ourselves and we go on about our happy little business. But it's just a vicious cycle. And if we don't break away from this cycle right now, that really is what you're looking at. You're looking at a drone future, and you're looking at a future that calculates everywhere you travel and every mile, and you have restrictions on miles, and you have restrictions on, the social credit system in China. You walk across the street and jaywalk, a camera picks you up, it deducts things from your score. Or if you say something online, it's detrimental to the communist regime over there. You lose social credit
to your friend because there's microphones everywhere listening to you. You show up to the grocery store to get something and it says you can't check out because your kid didn't complete his trans training class. I mean, that's the kind of shit that's where it's going. That's where it's going.
Yep.
So the attack on our First Amendment is probably the biggest battle.
Here's another attack on the First Amendment. They carted Steve Bannon off to jail for 4 months. It just happens to be through the election.
That's a Virginia Tech graduate too, as well. Man, that's somebody around here.
He was from Richmond.
Yeah,
and what did he do? He told a sham January 6th committee to go shove it, and they've locked him up for 4 months.
Well, didn't one of these recent rulings say that the January 6th committee was unconstitutional?
Well, it was completely unconstitutional.
But they actually ruled on it, I thought.
Did they rule on it?
I thought the Supreme Court, one of their things this week was
Congress, Matt Gaetz has finally brought up a resolution to deem it a unconstitutional committee, which hadn't been done yet. So we'll see if they can push that through because poor Peter Navarro's in jail too, who was one of Trump's right-hand guys the whole time he was in the White House.
Meanwhile, Mayorkas has refused congressional subpoenas. And
Garland. They've all refused them.
And they're not in jail.
No,
won't be.
One rule for me, another rule for thee.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the only consistency.
That's
a tragedy.
This is a time that most people never thought they'd see in this country. Like you talk to people our parents' age, they never thought that you would see the day where political hit jobs like this are happening, where they're throwing political opponents in prison, and
FBI
we had
Band
it
7
made.
is listening.
Yeah. We had it.
Bring it on, FBI.
Too comfortable.
Bunch of bums.
I mean, we really did. We had it made in the 90s, and they could have left it at that. It was
They
like a
kept
well-oiled
pilfering
machine.
and pilfering.
Nobody ever said like, okay, well, a couple of these countries here get it. We're gonna, we get cheap prices, gas is cheap, food's cheap. Everybody's, able to go on vacation and have a house, and they just kept getting more and more greedy and more and more greedy, and they had to take more and more.
Because they're psychopaths.
Exactly, power hungry psychopaths, and now I don't think they can reverse course. I think we got to stay full steam ahead.
No, they've gone for broke. Look, with stealing the election and the COVID thing, the mask came off completely. It's out. Their criminality is completely out in the open. They don't care. They will do whatever they have to do to keep power now. That's the scary part.
That scares the shit out of me.
It's So,
well, I guess this is July 3rd. Very, very special day. Before Stuart got here,
very poignant.
We kind of went off on. I said this is a good week to give British people shit as we prepare for. We prepare to be hosted by this British person for one of the bigger parties of the year that we always have. It's always a good time. It'll be on Friday. So,
second place is the first loser.
It's a very proper time. I mean, the memes are going to be great tomorrow. I'm hoping Chip and I can get together and, maybe you stick around on Instagram or X. We'll send you the best.
Do the British celebrate 4th of July?
They'll be working tomorrow. They'll be at work.
Strangely enough, no. However, you are still all welcome to join the Commonwealth. This may be, if I hark back to a 2% tax in 1775, I may say the Commonwealth could be a very valid option.
Y'all are so much farther gone than we are. At this point.
Absolutely.
I mean,
we're done. Europe and the UK, as far as. That's the last place I would want to be.
And it's
the last place I want to. This is the last bastion of freedom, and if we don't do something about it now,
it's all over.
That's the urgency.
It's game over.
That's the urgency.
And the urgency is right now. And I'm telling you this as an Englishman. Sorry, Pinkard. I'm a genuine Englishman, and the thing that you should be scared about most of all is I'm called a Scot.
That's true. Wow, I didn't know that. Damn.
I
know what we're dealing with now.
Europe is gone. We don't want that here. We, how many countries out there actually do celebrate an Independence Day from
Spain, Holland? There is
India. Hong Kong.
Yeah, India. Well, I don't know about Hong Kong. They could be regretting that.
Well,
yeah, I think they are.
Big time.
Gosh.
Everybody's forgot about that, but that was getting massively big. And then COVID comes. The 2A thing was getting huge here, and then COVID comes. Like all these things were starting to come to fruition again, and all of a sudden, boom! COVID knocks everything, and now that's all people are thinking about. And I guess I'm just kind of curious of what they're going to pull out this go round. What is it going to be? World War III and I think that's a big reason. You go back to Putin. I think that's a big reason he's holding off as well, because I think that they know that if World War III does kick off with them, then that gives Biden the power to suspend elections over here and retain power. So if Putin has any aspects of getting this war over with, he has to be very, very, strategic and intelligent right now moving forward, in hopes that the election here has to go on.
Let's go around the table. Who thinks, or does anybody think, that in the lead up to the election, let's say that World War III doesn't kick off, or the skirmishes keep growing, but no nukes yet? Do all of these?
You're very vocal in your eating there, Billy. By the way, very vocal in your crunching of your snacks. I mean, so unprofessional. Goodness gracious!
Does anybody think that they will activate these illegals in this country? And
Absolutely not.
You don't think they will?
They daren't. They daren't. How dare they? Absolutely not.
Well, I know you. So you really don't think they will try to cause massive unrest with these gangs of illegals?
They wouldn't have to do. They wouldn't have to do anything than cut them off for the 3 or 4 weeks leading up to the election.
Just activate them. Just activate them. Because I mean, I think
they've activated them by letting them in. That's
well,
already
that's stage
moved.
1.
Yeah, they're in.
But stage 2, I think, is.
Well, look at the inner cities.
They're in cell. I think they're in cells, and I think they're all waiting for the signal to go. You know what I mean?
I think a number.
And my guess is some have been given specific.
I hope not.
Specific jobs, like targeting infrastructure.
Well, that's a Mad Max scenario.
Look, who was it? One of the former generals, or I think it might have been McInerney, or I forget which one. A week or two ago, said, "Look, it's 3 times a week that we're catching Chinese trying to break onto military bases now."
Well, look
you know
at
what I
the
mean?
land
So
that
look,
they've purchased around
look,
military bases.
they're probing. They're probing right now.
They're listening. They've listened.
They're seeing what they can get away with.
And they're seeing the response times.
Yep.
You know, they're doing the whole thing you do before a heist.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like they're pushing the limit here, pushing the limit there. Can we get to this thing without that much hassle? How many men is it going to take to overtake this? How many? You know what I mean? And like with the Chinese specifically, there's
why are they coming in through our southern border?
Yeah, there's reports all over the country that within weeks,
how are they coming in?
Yeah,
through
they're
our
letting
southern
them in,
border?
but within weeks of them being here, they're finding groups of them showing up at gun ranges and training with high-powered stuff, weaponry. So what? I mean, do you think
that's why the next 5 months are going to be wild?
It's going to be wild, right?
It's going to be wild to see what happens.
I think it's very important to pay attention to it because they are going. I think they're going to, if it happens or whether it doesn't happen, I still think each and every day they're pushing out new and different narratives. That way they're getting people conditioned for it no matter what it is. And it could be that Joe Biden falls down and has a heart attack. It could be that a war starts. It could be another panic because you start seeing them now. They're talking about this bird flu finally, or not flu, whatever flu it is down there finally went over to a human or something. You know, it's like they start conditioning you really early with this kind of stuff now. That way they can just go in whatever direction the wind is blowing. Like,
they almost throw them at you and see what sticks.
Exactly.
Do.
What's going to get?
What's going to get the narrative?
Yeah, it's like every time they
throw them seeds out.
They are doing research the same way they do it at movie premieres. They take people to movie premieres and then they review the audience and they ask them and stuff. They're doing the same thing. They might not be reviewing it, face to face, but they're seeing what the reaction is and saying, "Well, what if we go this way, or what if maybe we need to edit to this hell?" Or because there could be a plethora of different things that happen between now and then. But I also thought this stuff would happen back in 2008. I swore to myself that Bush would enact that law and say, "Well, I need to hold power because we're still at war," and he would have held on to it instead of letting Obama, But so who knows? A lot of this stuff is
look.
Just...
Well, let's be honest about it. I mean, 2008. I mean, that's a way different thing than what is going on right now. You know what I mean? Yeah, we were at war, but the country was not.
In the turmoil,
in this turmoil and unsettled position of like teetering on the brink of utter communism and fascism compared to, a representative republic.
We have been successfully divided.
Mm-hmm. Well, 100%. That and just we've also been.
We played like a freaking banjo.
We really have.
Come on,
don't
think we're stupid either.
But we are at this kind of dividing line moment of which way is this country going to go? Is it going to go towards fascism, which, I mean, we're already there, but is it going to go full tilt authoritarianism, or is it going to stay somewhat free and move back towards,
or is it going to go communism?
Well, fascism, communism.
Well, to some degree,
different flavors of the same shitty ice
true,
cream.
But I think under fascism, at least some people are taken care of. Under communism, only the people at the top are taken care of, essentially.
Well, I think that's the way it'll be. I mean, it'll just be the top dogs and the rest of us. They want to exterminate 90% of us anyways, and they don't think they're going to need us.
Be prepared to stand up and be counted.
Yeah.
Is where I'm at. Be prepared to be counted. Your actions will... Your actions are very valid right now.
There's no time to be silent anymore.
No, none at all.
No, not especially if you have children.
Stand up and be counted, and be firm, and hold the rank.
Yeah,
hold the line.
It is time because it's not like 2008.
No, it's very different.
I mean, look, Obama just continued what Bush was doing anyways. I mean, there was no difference.
No.
But there was a distinct difference between Obama and Trump. There was a distinct difference. You know what I mean? It's the first time in my life that it hasn't just continued on business as usual.
Well, he came right out and literally told you. Like, when he's talking about selling weapons to Saudis, he's like, yep. He said, we just made this massive deal with the Saudis, big deal, huge deal. We're going to sell them a ton of weapons. It's going to be great for us. But people are like, he just said the quiet part out loud.
Yeah.
They're talking about Syria. He's like, I guess we'll leave a couple of thousand troops over there. They have to go to the oil fields. The oil fields are very important. It's like, stop saying.
This is my red line.
They're like, stop saying the quiet part out loud. I mean, he basically just,
That's the way it was. That's the way it was.
Yeah, what was going on? And there's been that I don't know if he's a general or not. Maybe he was in this cabinet or whatever. But whoever that was, he wrote a book about it, about lying to Trump at the time about how many troops they had in Syria.
Oh yeah,
lied about it. Like, that's treasonous.
Yeah, they were lying to him about everything.
Yeah, openly admitted it. It's like you lied to the sitting president when he asked you how many troops are in Syria, and you said a couple hundred when they're really 1,200. Like, I mean, that why isn't that man in jail right now?
Look, there was from the DOJ? Moment he took office, there was an ongoing coup from the intelligence agencies to overthrow him and take power away from him. And they did everything they possibly could to nullify him at every turn.
Here comes a little known fact that came across my radar very recently. During the course of World War II, the US had 4, maybe 5 4-star generals.
Mm-hmm.
We currently have 44. Now, these also include the GS rank structure, which is the biggest crock of shit that the military has put forward in the civilian equivalency of 4-star generals. So we have roughly 44 or so 4-star generals now, and we only had 4 in World War II. In World War I, 60 generals were killed in combat. Now, 60 generals killed in combat in World War I. Now we have only 4 4-star generals carrying out business in World War II. And now we have 44, including the GS rank bullshit, which I'm very opposed to. Our military structure is absolutely screwed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another topic entirely. But just letting you know, the Pentagon, with its unmitigated trillions of
have you seen the picture?
Unaccounted funds, and they've never passed an audit to date, quite frankly, it blows my mind.
Have you seen all the trans generals and commanders sitting around with each other in those photos they take with each other and stuff? I mean, it's and they're making them walk around in high heels. They're making them,
What does that do for morale?
Nobody wants to be in the military anymore. And before all this, I was telling people not to join, just for the simple fact you don't want to go fight banker wars. But if you could stomach that, at least to try and get yourself out of a pit, now you got to deal with all this nonsense on top of it. It's now you're just setting yourself up to go over there and get thrown in the meat grinder. Because I wouldn't want to stand beside some of these people and fight. Like when I went, I had men.
And now we've got the discussion of draft.
Oh yeah, that's on the table now.
That's on the table.
To bring that back.
And they originally made it for males only.
Uh-huh.
Really? And that's okay. That's okay by me. I have daughters.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Europe is considering this. The UK is very much considering this for bolstering and recruitment. It's not recruitment.
No.
Right. Let's not be under any illusion.
Service.
This is you are doing it.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a prelude.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
That's a prelude. Watch out, folks.
Sure.
Watch that space.
Well, look.
Do you want your sons and daughters fighting for this clown or these clowns that are currently in a perpetual state of war? My answer is fuck no.
Well, of course not. I mean, and what would they even be fighting for? All the shit we oppose. You know what I mean? It's like, at least like with the World War II narrative, these guys thought that they were fighting against the most extreme evil that's ever lived. At least that was like a narrative that was sellable and believable at the time.
There was a moral stance there that absolutely supported that war, and I get that.
I get that too,
and I get it.
Even though later on we've learned a lot of other things
that we know that Swiss funded both sides of that war.
Things. Well,
despicable country that it is.
That's like the U.S. They couldn't bomb the Ford factories over there because they were making the tanks for Hitler. So I mean, you learn all these things later.
Yeah.
But at the time, how do you sell any of this to anybody, even like going to like Ukraine to fight against Putin. How do you sell that to anyone when it's provable that we had 26 biolabs over there that were doing specific DNA-targeted bioweapons towards the Russian population? If I was Putin, I would have marched my ass in there too.
It was gain of function. It was gain of function, Fauci. And don't give me your hogwash bullshit and your his chemical and biological horseshit that he comes out with denying it. It was gain of function.
Yeah.
And
there is no question behind that.
And there's no accountability.
Zero.
There's no accountability for any of it. So that's why it'll continue.
Which
and
is why
they'll continue to do it.
This Chevron
deference.
I've got a problem with that word. Which is why that Chevron deference is going to be so impactful. It really is. And hopefully some of these folks are going to see some jail time.
I tell you, if things do pop off here, people like Fauci better hope he's got his bunker ready, because
Rand Paul's coming.
You know that there are going to be people ready to snatch these fuckers up. I mean, I'm not promoting that. I'm not advocating for that. I'm just saying that it would probably happen, because these people have tormented and tortured
they
people.
Are evil.
They are. I mean,
people.
yeah.
I mean, just take it for what it is.
And he's just one little tiny example of thousands of them that have been
the bureaucrats
doing this
behind this machine. Absolutely.
Yes.
And for you people out there, I don't. Most people don't listen to this, or lunatic lefties, but I know you all have friends or family members or people that if they're completely unraveled on the whole COVID thing. Just remind them that Fauci conducted experiments on dogs, little puppies, to where they took out the vocal cords so they couldn't hear them bark, and then put their heads in buckets full of sand fleas to see, just to torture. So these people are evil. Like, why you would need to do that is beyond me. But that's probably a good spot to end it on anyway. We've appreciate y'all coming out here today. It was kind of a last minute thing. I was kind of reserved to not doing a show this week, but because of Simon, his
we had
dedication.
to comment on this political state, right?
There's too much going on not to.
Yeah.
And to stay consistent and get something out there to you all. Once again, patreon.com/getontap for just $10 a day minimum. Less than a gallon of gas, less than a loaf of bread. I mean, so you can always give more. We appreciate everybody that does it. It helps keep the lights on here, and hopefully we got some big stuff moving forward. It's been kind of a, due pregnancy and everything else going on. It's hard. This has went from a hobby to something that's, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a movement, a media company, or whatever it is, but now we've got y'all on board that comes when we need you to chip in on these great topics we have. We got a phenomenal lineup of people wanting to come on the show. I've just been wanting to get the cameras ready to get them going. So whatever it is, it's because of everybody out there. So, listening, sharing, going on whatever website or app you listen to and giving us a 5-star review. I don't care if you say his accent's fake. I don't care if you say whatever it is, just give us 5 stars.
I do.
It helps us go up
this shit for this long.
It helps us go up in the
90
rankings.
minutes, and I haven't fallen asleep.
You're impressive.
It's
very impressive.
Yeah, I don't know why, but it helps us go up in the rankings, and it gets us more people. So share it. Send these shows through text messages to your friends. If you can't fork over 10 cents a day, then text message the show to 5 people every week or something, and all that helps. Patreon.com/getontap once again. We'll have some more content for y'all hopefully moving forward. I think in the next few weeks, I'd like to get a couple of music shows in. I'd really like to get Cheryl on here to talk about Little Shabby's, because that place is it's hot right now, and the food's delicious.
Fantastic.
We love Cheryl. So.
Great success story in the town.
Yeah, and also, I tell you what, real quick, Rocky Mount, I'm sitting there driving around, and now you go around downtown, and there's a vibe going on. You got these nice little boutiques, these little shops. We've had some of them here on the show. They're getting ready to put a restaurant right there directly across from Angle Hardware in that where Kay's Corner, I guess, used to be. There's going to be a new restaurant right there.
Yep. New restaurant, new store, new conference center.
Yeah, the hotel's coming in here pretty soon.
Yep.
And we have an opportunity, and I think another reason why I encourage everybody to subscribe us and support us is because we have a golden opportunity with the connections we've made through this show. The promoters and the musical acts and all this kind of stuff. Like we can bring festival type events down here to Rocky Mount to fill your stores up to make this town a hopping little place. We have the ability, but it takes money, it takes time, it takes effort. So please, go and become a subscriber or do whatever you can to share us with everybody else. Because the bigger we get, the more opportunities we can. Because people have legitimate reasons to come spend a weekend in Rocky Mount now. Come down here, there'll be a couple of music acts. There might be this festival. Maybe we'll have in the conference hall, the Morris Hotel, maybe we'll have a podcast convention down there.
Oh, for sure.
Or an author convention or a moonshine convention. Like there's so many opportunities for the future, but we need y'all's help just like anything else. So patreon.com/GetOnTap. Once again, for Simon, everybody, hopefully we'll see all y'all on Fridays.
Happy 4th of July.
Yeah, absolutely. And, hopefully y'all will both be up there on Friday for the fireworks and everything. And we don't burn anything down. We haven't had rain in about a month.
It's a little dry.
Yeah.
I'm hoping
hey, one other thing.
Thunderstorms tomorrow.
I bring this up because it's relevant now because I think it is going to rain sometime, hopefully soon. Have anybody else noticed the lack of chemtrails over the past 2 months?
Interesting. You
Right?
should mention that. Yeah. Not seen one of
I
them.
started thinking about it the other day because Noah and I were outside playing and a plane went across the sky and it just had a contrail. And
Contrails disappear.
And he knows about chemtrails and contrails. He's 5. We've talked about all these things. And he said, Daddy, that one's disappearing. That's a contrail. And I was like, yeah, you're right. And
Which
then,
requires a very specific set of circumstances meteorologically.
yes.
Something like that in an English accent. It requires a very interesting set of circumstances to develop contrails.
Yeah.
So,
the chemtrails are much wider.
Yeah, well, and they stay, and then they spread out, and then they hit it with the HARP array with the radio frequencies, and then that makes it wave out everywhere. And I haven't noticed that since we've had this drought.
It's like you made rain. You made rain in the desert. Why don't you come make some rain here for having a?
They have not been spraying.
Mm-hmm. That's a good thing. I'll leave it to nature. Thank you.
Well, yeah, I would, but
who knows if they're encouraging this drought purposely?
Well,
they're also
that's one thing. But then, like a guy who was on YouTube a few years ago, and I don't know if his channel's still there or not, but I know that he hasn't been posting anything for a while. And I think he was like a handicapped guy because he used like a robot voice to talk and stuff. But he went by Weather Wars, and he was making the claim, and he had a lot of proof to show this, that they actually have broke the weather cycle a while ago now, and we're creating all the weather that we do see. So like, Jeremy Clarkson from Top Gear.
Yes,
indeed. There's a famous clip of him down at that NASA facility down in Alabama where they put all of the, basically water into the atmosphere, and then 15 minutes later, 15 miles down the road, it rains. And every time they do this, it rains down there. Well, Weather Wars through radar and everything else was showing where they have all of these basically like rainmakers all over the world. And that he was showing like when they would go off and then it would rain here. And then they were able to make it rain and storm and do everything wherever they wanted to. And this whole thing with this drought and then not seeing any chemtrails has brought me back to that theory that maybe they are completely manipulating all of it at this point. So
it does beg the question.
It does. Anyway, not to prolong things here.
No,
I thought I'd bring it up before it actually rains, and then I don't think about it anymore. So
that'll be definitely a conversation worth having on another show. Because, like you said, we've had Stuart on quite a few times since probably back in the fall, and you can go back and listen to all those shows, hours and hours and hours of stuff. It's just something. I mean, things that we were talking about months ago, people forget about now, like the bridge in Baltimore going down,
that's right.
or the plane that just disappeared and reappeared down in South Carolina or Georgia that crashed, and then aliens being discovered in Mexico. I mean, the amount of stuff like just in a couple of months, you could fill up 20 yearbooks, full of, remember that section in the back? It was like, oh, this is our year or whatever. I mean, God almighty. It's
memories.
Yeah, it's absurd. So, you can catch Chip over there, Being Libertarian Media on, Facebook, Instagram, United States Space Force No.
Yeah, we've
Space
changed.
Bar.
Yeah, we lost our Space Force page, so now we're the United States Untied Space United States Space Force. So now they can't get us untied. Yeah, so we just tweaked it up a little bit.
And they kept you from going live on Instagram recently.
3 months
again for 3 months.
for a post I didn't even make. Some guy asked me to collaborate on a post, and I did, and I caught the hit.
Got you.
Got me. Got me. Election year, man.
Well, still the memes are good out there, so go give them a follow, and hopefully maybe here in upcoming weeks or something, we can start getting some more spaces and stuff over there on X. Those are really exciting and fun. So catch us at Get On Tap, X, Instagram, Facebook, the Appalachian Podcast, patreon.com/Get On Tap once again, and hopefully we'll see some of y'all out there at the
4th of July
party.
everybody.
Yeah,
That's right.
happy 4th of July,
Enjoy it.
Simon.
Yep. Take that, Simon.
Martina McBride will be played 5,000 times tomorrow on B99 and 94.9. So.
Lee Greenwood, I'm proud.
And I'll
be singing it along with everybody else.
Let freedom ring. Here we go.
Signal while changing lanes. They pulled him over, found her cocaine. She said, I love you. Yes, I love you forevermore. If you tell that cocaine load is yours. He spent time locked up. She ran around. Everyone knew it. Small country town. While he lay rotten, Lord, she was blowing. And the day they released him, well, he had nowhere to go. Lord, and his ashes to ashes, and you know it's dust to dust. Just another low down woman that a man can't trust. she forgotten? Did she still care? He called up her mama, Lord, and these words he heard her cry. Lord, that no good daughter of mine spend all your money on cocaine, overdosed and died. Lord, it's ashes to ashes, and you know it's dust to dust. just another low down one that a man can't trust. In the spring, one sunny day, my good gal left me.